move on to something else? Okay.
Cannon.
What's that?
Cannons.
Oh, the cannon. Oh, yeah.
You can forget about that.
Well, you know, each of the siblings has their own relationship with Ron. I shared a little bit of gunpowder with Ron for a number of years. In the year 1976 and 1977, which was United States bicentennial, Ron and myself and some of the others decided to have a 200-year celebration. So we made a cannon, which you know, was like 3 inches in diameter. We found some wagon wheels, and we made it's called a trunnion, the thing that actually holds the cannon, so you could do this. And we had to put a hitch so we could tie it to something and drag it around to a safe place to blow it off. It didn't turn out that safe, but I'll save that story. And we blew off the cannon, and we actually blew up a few, and just peeled like a flower. Ron takes it and paints it up, turns it into red, white, and blue, and puts some flowers in it. The creative side was always working with this guy. Is that right? Right, Shel? Well, now, Ron has had a constitution. That's a good word. Ron had a constitution. When Ron made up his mind, he basically put his head down and he went forward. And this served him quite well over time. When he decided to lose weight, he dieted and he went and lost some weight. He decided he was going to run. He bought 3 pairs of running shoes and he ran until his legs fell off early. And then he decided to quit smoking. Gets back to that. Everyone from the 50s and 60s, you were not a male man until you smoked. And then when the anti-smoking thing picked up later, all those people had the challenge, which he met. Bill, did you quit smoking too?
Sure did.
Yeah. Bob? Bob smoked, he quit. I smoked, I quit. Not easy. So when he made up his mind, he pretty much made it up, and he continued straightforward. Ron had a conscience, and the first time his conscience always displayed itself, but as a programmer, systems analyst, through these different decades, and we always seem to have a war or preparing for war. And back in the particular day, there was the MX missile was one of the chief weapons the United States had invented. And the companies that Ron worked for were the inventors of the MX missile. And I remember when I mentioned the MX and I asked him to tell me about it, and he did, at the end, kind of made a face. And then time would go by, and as it turned out, he was souring on the idea of making weapons. And he was looking for a different type of occupation, still in the world of systems analysts and programming, just not programming smartphones. He also had a core about the environment. I canoed, Bob and I canoed with him. He camped, he ran, as I mentioned. But he did have a snowmobile, which put out a lot of pollution, but then he got rid of it. Well, he got rid of it because it caught on fire, but that's sad. But he did still have an environmental string going on. But a couple of his brothers still snowmobiled. They're smelly things, you know. If you've ever been by one, you have to throw your clothes in the laundry. Well, he put up with us about the snowmobiling, but he did have an environmental string about it. Even though for an environmental guy, he did cut down a few trees with a chainsaw, but still, then he did something nice with the tree. He just didn't burn it up. Now, all of you had different experiences with Ron, but would you say the guy had a sense of humor?
Oh, yeah.
Ron liked to have a chuckle, and if he didn't have a joke, he was really willing to laugh at the joke that you had. Yes, I would say he had a good sense of humor. I would say he was a bit quirky at times. Would you agree, some of you? For instance, there was the time I went over to his cabin one time. They said, "Ron, you want to get some supper?" And he's sitting down in this ungodly, uncomfortable chair. And he says, Ron's not here. And I look at him and I said, what? And he goes, Ron's not here, I'm Frank. And I said, Frank? And I'm blinking for a while. It took me weeks and weeks to get his middle name is Francis, so now he wants to be called Frank. It took me a long time. So I said, well, Frank, do you think Ron wants to go to supper? And he goes, I don't know, I'll ask him and one of us will get back to you. I walked out of there scratching my head. But this did not go on for 1 or 2 days. It went on for 1 or 2 years. I think it even went on for longer. I kind of forget. But a few years ago, I walk into the Christmas party at Katie and Jim's, and I just say, how you doing, Frank? And he slips right into character and he goes, fine, Jack, how you been? Have you seen Ron lately? And then occasionally Frank came and went, and then finally Ron came back. Quirky stuff. And so somewhere in the later part of his life, would you like to say something?
Emmy.
And who's your mother?
Mommy.
Who's daddy?
Mama.
Okay, can you point? Where's Mama? You're gonna upstage me. Bye-bye.
Your moment in the spotlight is over.
Yay!
Little kids and dogs.
All right.
Ta-da! Okay, your mother's calling, Emmy.